Hi, everyone. I'm Dan McDermott. Welcome to Google Plus Week. We have an excellent panel tonight, as always. We have Pam Adger there with us. Hello, Pam. How are you?
Good, Dan. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well, thanks. Um, and we have Sheila in
Hello.
Utah there. Sheila, welcome. Good to have you.
Thanks.
Everyone's really excited tonight. Everyone's obviously on Red Bull.
Yay! I'm so excited to be part of Google Plus Week. Yay!
Oh my God, I've never been trolled by Sheila before. And we have Eli Fennell.
Greetings, people of Earth.
Yeah, he is from the Alchemist book series, which was excellent, and we're proud to have him as part of our group. And then from New York is Alan Furstenberg. Welcome, Alan.
Hey, Dan!
You know, these are my friends. You should see my the other thing. Okay, so all right. So our first story is a sad, tragic ending to what could have been a wonderful love affair. We learned today that if I start weeping as I go, please take over for me, Alan. We'll
You
talk to you in a
bet,
minute.
Dan!
You'll have to in a minute anyway, because I got to make a chicken and lemon reduction for our pan roasted chicken with rosemary, bacon, and lemon. So, okay, the Comcast Time Warner romance that might have been. The FCC came out, I think, was it just this week, yesterday or the day before, that was going to do a referral, and that was coupled on top of rumors about, I guess, the FTC having misgivings and then questions about their role in the potential sale that was knocked off of Hulu, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it was, I think we said on Monday's show, we said, this is probably not going to happen. So where do we begin? Tell us about the post you shared.
Not to mention they actually did meet with the Justice Department this week to convince them that, honest, this is all legal. So where to begin? I mean, they called it off finally. I think the best comment I heard about it today was someone saying that Comcast had contacted Time Warner and was trying to cancel the deal, but they gave up after being on hold for 90 minutes. I think that's one of the best summaries of why nobody wanted this deal to go through.
Is the FTC independent at all?
Depends what you mean by independent.
Okay, so they're independent like the FCC is.
Well,
Not
I
really.
mean, they're independent to an extent that the people who were reviewing it at this stage were career FTC people. So they're not politicians. They're not beholden to politicians for their job.
But the decision's made by the Federal Trade Commission, just like the Federal Communications Commission makes the final determination based on staff.
The decision's made by political appointees, but at this point it was based on the recommendation of staff members, and these are professional staff members.
So I don't think it should be unnoticed that they came out. Were they part of the lawsuit against the net neutrality decision by the FCC?
I don't remember, to be honest, but wasn't that mostly that was Verizon primarily, wasn't it? Eli, you might remember better than I do.
Yeah, Verizon was the turd in the punch bowl. The other guys tried to tell them if they pushed it that they could end up with a worse situation.
Well,
than
that
they
was
started
originally,
with,
but like the actual recent lawsuit that was filed against the announcement to reclassify them, clearly Comcast is the reason the whole net neutrality thing. They're the biggest player. Time Warner was the second biggest player. Although combined, they would have only been 30% of the market because there's a lot of little tiny players like Shenandoah Telephone locally, lots of small players throughout the country. But I don't know. I mean, it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. I think they're greedy bastards and they screw people over, and I can't stand it.
Well, let's be honest here. The reason why they didn't get it is because both these two brands, Comcast and Time Warner, are the two most hated brands in America. And that's not just my opinion. That's survey. these are two of the most hated brands out there. And they thought they could pull a fast one and somehow make everyone like them suddenly. And they couldn't. I mean, some of the coverage around here was interesting, mostly focusing on the fact that, the mayor of New York and the governor of New York both came out saying they were glad that this got killed. But it's interesting because both of them were in a really good position to negotiate for a deal from the merged company as a condition of allowing them to go through with the merger. So, in a way, they both lose out by this, but they still thought it was a better deal. That's got to tell you something. What are your thoughts on this, Pam? There we go.
Wow. Is that huge lag or what? I see your mouth moving a full 5 seconds. No, not really 5 seconds. So a couple seconds before I hear your voice.
Well, that's what happens when you use a Mac.
What do I think about this? I think that the FCC finally did something they were supposed to do and kill this deal. I don't think that they should have been allowed to merge. I think that much like political districts, they carve the United States up into pieces, and I don't even think that's fair. I think that both should compete in all areas or neither. I don't think that there should be, well, if you live in this area, you get Time Warner, and if you live in this area, you get Comcast, and if you live over here, you get some, third party, and I get Verizon. I don't think the way they do business is right in the first place. So I think them merging is a bad idea. Kind of like the airlines merging is a bad idea because they treat the customers like crap, and there's no recourse.
There's an interesting question. Is it really, these companies suck. I'm not even going to try to defend their practices here. These companies suck. But is it the federal government's place to punish them because they suck, or is it the marketplace's role to punish them because they suck?
Well, I think it depends on whether you subscribe to the free market system or you subscribe to the not free market system. I mean, technically we have antitrust laws that don't get enforced enough anyway, and either do away with the laws and allow it to be like the Wild West, or enforce the laws. This would have been Big Blue over again, and there. I mean, there's just no argument about that. There's just not enough competition out there, and.
Yeah, but Pam, Big Blue is an interesting analogy because they never went through with the antitrust case against IBM, and yet IBM.
No, they just broke them up.
No. Big Blue is IBM.
Oh.
You're thinking AT&T.
Oh, you're right. I am thinking AT&T.
On that note, let me ask a question. An observation. See what you guys think. I actually think there is more of a rationale to approve this than there was the purchase of NBC Universal, because there you had the biggest provider of service in the country purchasing one of the competitive players, and the worry that they were going to somehow screw ABC, CBS. But the opposites, in my experience, the opposites occurred. Like I can get CNN and Fox News Channel, but I don't have MSNBC, and I have a pretty nice package from Comcast Business. I can't believe they would screw their own company.
Name five national cable companies.
Cox, Time Warner Cable, Comcast, AT&T, Uverse, Verizon, FiOS,
Verizon Fios is not national.
Cablevision.
Okay, there's 5.
I can't name 6.
Right.
There's
And-
probably 100 or
But-
more. I don't know how many.
And
there
how
are.
many-
The thing is, though, that monopoly, if I may interrupt, monopoly power is not based on the idea that you have to control an entire state or an entire country. You have to be able to control markets so that they don't have other choices. The basic theory of why we don't let two market leaders generally join forces is it's sort of like tying two turkeys together doesn't make an eagle. Tying two monopolies together does not make a robust, healthy, competitive marketplace. And I think that is fundamentally what it comes down to, is that, these two for years have been agreeing with each other not to compete, and now we're going to let them join so that they can never, ever, ever compete. You said, Alan, shouldn't it be left to the market to punish a company like Comcast? Bring it on. Bring me the alternative to Comcast, and I will punish them this second. Bring Google Fiber to my neighborhood. I have literally 2 choices that are even vaguely plausible for me in this area. One is AT&T, one is Comcast. But I work online. I cannot count on the slow connection speeds that AT&T DSL gives, so that literally leaves me with one choice. One choice. That is what defines a monopoly. When I have one choice,
No.
and they can behave like they know that I have no reason.
Eli, by your own statement, you've got 2 choices. Just that they both.
No, I don't, because the one choice doesn't serve my needs. It's not a choice if it doesn't serve your needs. That's like saying, that if you have to, say, travel every weekend to New York, that you have a choice between a plane and a train. Well, yeah, except the train's going to take you 3 days or whatever to get there, and that's just not practical. I work online. So for me, it's not like, oh, well, I can't have Netflix, but I can just go rent, DVDs from Redbox. It's more like, I don't have fast enough internet, so I can't eat. So
Okay,
for
so
me, the
Eli-
reality is there's one choice.
Eli-
One choice in the market, and that's not competition.
Okay, we have not a single monopoly, but every area has their own monopoly, or duopoly, and then about some number have more than 2. Is this a just ruling, or just we feel really good to see Comcast getting screwed? I think that's what
There's
Alan
no
was getting
ruling.
to.
There was no ruling here, Dan.
I mean, is it a just result? In other words, is this
Yeah,
pile on
right.
because everyone hates Comcast because they're such bastards, and so we're so happy to see them get screwed because they're mean and we don't like them, and they
That's
screw
pretty
everyone
just
over?
enough.
Or is this a just ruling in terms of they shouldn't really be allowed to buy this and only then own 30%? They're going from like 20 something to 30% if this had gone through, and it was not an overlap area. They were going to sell all those, so they were going to keep it under 30% or 30% or less. So I don't know if this is like a pro-America ruling, because it's not really, but it's just I'm happy because I can't stand them, but I don't know if this is necessarily the correct result. Not ruling, but result.
Here's why, and I can't believe so few people are bringing this up. Here's why it's still a just ruling, and here's why, as a monopoly, and they would have been a monopoly, it would have been bad for the consumer. It's because they would have now been acting as a monopoly for the content providers. I'm sorry, for the content creators. And they could essentially squeeze those creators into taking less money. And that wasn't going to be benefiting us to any extent. It was going to be benefiting them. So they'd be able to charge the same amount to us and pay less to companies like Disney, HBO, and all of the rest. So that's where the anti-monopoly factor ends up coming in.
I'll be right back. I have to make a reduction for our
Yeah,
chicken.
fine.
I'll be back.
Go do your Food Network show. Sheila, what are your thoughts on this?
What, on the Food Network show?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pizza Delivery Week. I'm Alan Furstenberg. Dan McDermott is off making a pizza reduction or some sort. With us tonight is Sheila. Sheila, what are your thoughts on food?
or Comcast. Well,
Or Comcast, since, we can't stick to a single topic anyway.
I don't really care what they did. We're using Comcast, and it's better than anything that we have here in Utah. We won't go DirecTV. We won't go. Was it DirecTV or Dish Network? We won't go with either one of those because we don't want CenturyLink as a provider. So it's Comcast.
See, here's where I kind of have problems with Eli's statement, and I guess a little bit with your statement. It's not that we don't have competition in a lot of these areas. There are places in the U.S. that don't have competition, but both you and Eli have talked about how there's more than one provider. Just that one of them really sucks. And I'll agree with that. One of them really sucks.
Well, but I don't view that as competition if you have a choice between, one that is good and one that sucks.
So Eli, but Eli, what you're basically saying is that capitalism doesn't work.
I'm saying that in this case it hasn't, and it's not exactly capitalism because there are things that advantage the home players. So, like, okay, if you're Comcast, you already laid infrastructure. That's very hard to reproduce. That's very hard to get another thing.
But we've got...
Or access to polls. They just, thank goodness, with the net neutrality thing, they're opening that up. Access to polls is crucial
but Eli,
to allowing this kind of robust competition that we need in the market. Look, if you want to know if we have robust competition, I go back to the numbers that they showed when they launched Google Fiber, where they showed the growth of things like processor speeds for computers or memory storage, and then they compared it to the growth of internet connection speeds. And it just stopped. And oh look, suddenly in areas where Google Fiber is coming to town, oh look, we can give you 2 gigabyte fiber connections. We can give you 6 gigabyte fiber connections, when before there's no market demand for that. Now, nobody can tell the market that there's no demand for something they haven't even seen yet without believing they have some kind of monopoly power in order to enforce that restriction.
But Eli, here's where I've got issues with what you're saying, and I fundamentally agree with what you're saying. But under the argument about competition is that, look, we've got 2 competing companies in theory, just that one of them isn't living up to that competition. If it's not, that says there's got to be a reason why they're not. And, joining us now is Michael, who fortunately just muted himself before I did. So, Michael, if you're here, what are your thoughts on the Comcast Time Warner non-merger? If you can join us. Where are you joining us from, Michael? You're joining us from a state where you need to stay quiet at the moment because there's a lot of background
bar.
noise. So, Chef Dan is back with us.
Yeah. So here's the thing, Alan. Like I said, I can't. I just bit my tongue. I can't stand Comcast, but this has huge long-term ramifications. It was what was it, $24 billion, $25 billion deal, and to put this in perspective, and everything you guys have said is correct, but to put it in perspective, being the devil's advocate here, when do you think this problem is going to fix itself? This monopoly issue, is it going to be balloons or low-flying satellites or new technology or what? When are we all going to have multiple, if ever? Is it going to be in 10 years or in 2 years? And I don't know. Do you think that I'm trying to come up with if there's any reason why this...
Here's the problem. I honestly don't see how it's going to end up resolving itself. I mean, DSL technology has been as crappy as it's been for the past 10 or 15 years. And that's still hanging around for some unknown god-awful reason. You know, we're finally seeing municipalities getting fed up with it, and they're fighting back, and maybe they're going to get enough political clout in their own state legislatures to let this go through. Verizon has been screwing over their customers and states for a couple of decades now, and the state legislatures are finally catching on to the fact that they'll straight out lie to you to get what they want. You know, I think it's more a matter of political will than technological will, to be honest, I think.
Has anyone heard of any when the I saw a lot of Republican conservative outcry over the decision by the FCC to reclassify broadband as a common carrier thing. Has anyone heard any outcry over this result, or is the public such a Comcast hating group that even the most ardent Ted Cruz types know better than to criticize this result?
Nobody likes Comcast. Nobody likes Time Warner. That's why
I think if Comcast or Time Warner were people, and the average person found their body lying in a ditch, they would relieve themselves upon the corpse.
Well, you know what? I wouldn't say nobody because, frankly, I know we're paying an arm and a leg for what we're getting, but I'm happy with what I get. Does that make sense? Yeah, I'm kind of happy.
It makes sense, Sheila, but it almost sounds like you're saying, yeah, but they're better than,
Well, I don't know where my other options are here as it stands. I did find out that Google Fiber is going to Salt Lake City now, but it's not going to make it to West Jordan because I don't think there's any fiber optic lines out here.
Well, I guess the hope would be that just by them being in Salt Lake City, that hopefully that would encourage, Comcast in your area to bump connection speeds, because that seems to be happening everywhere they're having to compete with Google Fiber now.
Well, we did have the boost as far as the connection speed, but we decided that we went down to what we were at because it's like we were fine with the way it was before we did the boost, so we're saving a little bit of money without being boosted. So.
Okay. Any other thoughts on the?
Yeah, I just had to go look up just how hated Comcast was.
They're always in the running for consumerists' worst company in America contest.
It's not that they were in the running; they won it
multiple times.
Okay, I'm looking at 247wallstreet.com. America's most hated companies. The most hated was Comcast. Quote, received exceptionally low customer satisfaction scores for both its internet and television service. Comcast scores in each category were so low that they actually stood out in their industries, which are among the worst for customer satisfaction in the first place.
Okay, now as far as customer satisfaction or customer service, my husband would say, yeah, the customer service on the hold line sucked. Going from somebody that talked India but can't very well talk English to some other place somewhere down the road, transferring several times, yeah, he was not happy. Trying to get what he wanted, so yeah.
Far be it for me to actually defend Comcast for a minute here, but I'm surprised that their TV would actually get such low ratings. I don't know, maybe in some areas the connection's not so good or something, but I find their selection to be great. I use it alongside their online selection alongside Netflix, and it's a much better selection.
Yeah.
with Hulu Plus content integrated right into it. It doesn't have Chromecasting integrated, which stinks. That's the drawback
The
there.
last, I mean, maybe they've modernized it, but the last time I used their cable box, though, it looked exactly like it did back in the 80s.
No,
No,
they're newer.
it's
They're
not
newer.
like it had been modernized at any point.
I can tell you I have Comcast Business Class, which is when I call, I get somebody very quick, and they'll come that day if something's wrong. I pay for it, and the apps are amazing. I mean, I have them on my phone. I can change the channel on the TV. That's really cool. I can stream CNN on my phone. Um, I can. It's it's impressive stuff. Well, so this gets to what is the ramification? Is there any real world effect in this, other than a moral victory and a ha ha the school bully got his ass handed to him? Other than that, does this matter at all? Because Cablevision or somebody else is going to buy them because they're on the auction block. I think that I heard from Brian Stelter today that Cablevision has already putting feelers out and in talks with Time Warner about buying them. And they were talking to them before, but then I think Comcast had bigger pockets.
That's not going to get approved either.
They should have the right to be sold to somebody.
Why do they need to be sold?
I guess they don't want to. They want to sell. I don't know actually why. Do we know why they want to sell?
Yeah, because the CEO wants a nice big fat golden parachute.
Well, that's the purpose of a corporation, right? To make money for the shareholders.
I said CEO.
I assume the shareholders will make money because they're going to purchase it for more than the. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty funny.
Hang on, I have to check on my pan roasted chicken with rosemary, bacon, and lemon reduction sauce. I'll be right back.
Bring a
Don't
plate
forget
when you're
to
done.
spice it up a notch.
Bam!
Damn.
I think Yahoo should buy them. That way we can have Yahoo, AOL, Time Warner, and have all the turkeys on the same table.
Wait, didn't they used to own them and they sold them?
The circle is complete.
I mean, didn't they used to be called AOL Time Warner?
They did, yes.
You said that, and I'm like, wait a minute, this name sounds very familiar.
AOL? That's so old.
And I'm a cord cutter here, so I guess to some degree this all doesn't matter to me because I know that the success of these companies, the huge success they've had, is not based on being a dumb pipe ISP. It's on the top level services that they provide. But with people like me going over the top, forget it. Even though I do use like Xfinity's online thing, that's still, it's over the top. It's not their top level thing, and it shows that to me the future is that they're just dumb pipes to give me the content I want. And I think it's good that we encourage strong competition. I think that will happen anyways because there's so many companies right now who have every reason to want to give you the internet for free just to get you online using their stuff, that it's going to happen.
Well, here's an interesting question, Eli. What if they truly became the dumb pipe, the dumbest pipe possible, and they sold ISP service on top of their dumb pipe? They could make a pretty healthy living with that.
No, that's true. You could have things like, like how you have mobile virtual network operators with the carriers. You could have companies that do that, competing over providing ISP service through Comcast dumb pipe, and Comcast could be licensing that bandwidth.
Right. And I mean, consider that that's essentially the European model. It's how the rest of the world operates. But the cable companies have resisted that here because they want to be able to, charge for everything.
Are you talking about the cozy model that we
I
discussed?
wouldn't use that term, but yes.
Yeah. So what? Just to refer. I still favor this. Where George Cozy, he's in a unit of condos or apartments, whatever it is, some sort of building with multiple dwelling units in it, and they came for no cost to the tenants. They went in there and they wired it for fiber. Then that company that actually wired it, I don't know if they also provide a service, but they're like a wholesale pipe. And then I think he has like a dozen or more different companies he can choose for phone service, TV, broadband, or any combination of those things, and they're all competing, and they all have access to that pipe. And I talked to my friend Steve Newman, who's a senator in Virginia, and he was opposed to municipal broadband. But I asked him about this concept, and he said he would support a bill for that because he thinks this would bring competition. But I think Alan pointed out that this is probably specifically illegal according to the code. But we have to check that out. But I think that's the obvious solution, to allow a municipality, let the voters vote on it, and if they want to enter into a bond referendum to finance or authorize a company to do it, but that company wouldn't sell service. Retail, they would sell access and provide wholesale access to any company that wants it, and let Time Warner, Comcast, Cablevision, Cox,
Well, but here's the thing, Dan.
all compete.
Why would that company then have any interest at all in upgrading infrastructure?
Because in the end, you're still got the problem where it doesn't make sense for multiple companies to lay pipes to your house, just like for
but that
water,
doesn't
electricity.
About why they would want to upgrade the infrastructure.
I mean, I think, POTS lines and coax have provided, they're fully capable of delivering a lot more than we get. Coax is.
Not really. That's why you've got crappy, shit like DSL.
So wait, you're in favor of the municipalities, the bureaucracy, to install fiber, right, up to the house.
I'm saying that in your neighborhood, wherever you live, Pam, in Menifee, California, you have what, Comcast, or who do you have?
I have Verizon Fios.
Okay.
I have fiber optics.
Okay, so you already have fiber. So
Yeah.
Is there an incumbent cable TV company also in addition to Verizon, or is that it?
It's either Cox or Time Warner.
Okay, so
I'm
you
not sure
have
which one.
you have two options, and some places have three or more. The last number I saw, I'm not sure the validity of it. It said about a third of the people are like me, where you have one provider, Comcast or DSL, nothing. So one provider, and another third have two, like Pam, and another third have three or more. But if you're in a place like mine, Pam, what I'm saying is that because nobody else wants to come in and lay a second pipe to your house for the purpose of entering into a price war where no one's going to make any money, so there's no incentive to do that. That's why we have these de facto monopolies. I'm saying that if the municipality wanted to make it competitive and they wanted to provide a second pipe on top of the legacy incumbent and then open that pipe up for anyone who wanted to offer service through it. In other words, they're not selling Menifee.com internet. They're contracting with someone to lay the fiber, and then Comcast, Cablevision, Time Warner, whoever wants to, can all compete. Or if Alan wanted to get together with Eli and Sheila and form their own company to provide content, they could. Anybody can buy it wholesale.
Okay, that sounds fantastic. There's only one problem,
Okay.
and I'm going to use. I was going to use one analogy, but it might only apply to us here in Los Angeles area. I'll use a different analogy. Back in the early part of the 1900s, probably mid 1900s, we built the interstate system, the United States. So
That would
all
be
the roads were built.
That
Huh?
would be 1950s, Pam.
Okay, I said mid 1900s, right?
I thought you said early, but okay.
Yeah.
It's the Eisenhower Interstate Highway System, so it's post World War
Okay.
II.
Yep. And how well do you think those are maintained?
I'm in Virginia, so they're excellently maintained since we're like the richest state.
Yeah. So
Thank
here it
you.
is. You have the bureaucracy building it for no financial gain and leasing it out to Joe Schmo or whatever company, cable company. And when it breaks or there's new technology or something happens, who's going to fix it?
And Dan, I've been on your Virginia roads. No.
I mean, we have so many potholes in Los Angeles that they actually have a toll-free 3-digit number that you can call to report them, and then maybe 9 months later, if your suspension lasts, they'll fix it. I mean, it's ridiculous. We have these huge water lines that are breaking all the time. They're 100 years old. They're 35 years behind schedule for fixing these things. I just don't see how we in the United States are not built like the Netherlands. We can't just, because no one wants to pay for it. It's no, it's not me. Oh no, it's the states. And the states are busy, hijacking the highway fund for, whatever crisis that they have for whatever reason. And that's just the way it goes. There's no accountability. There's no anything like that. And until there is, it doesn't make sense to give it to the bureaucracy.
Since Chef Dan
Paid for by voters for Pam Adger, 2016.
Eli, what do you agree or disagree with Pam?
No, actually, I mean, I think that she's absolutely right, and I would not want that to be our single-minded internet strategy. I think it's a great way for, like, a municipality to put pressure on ISPs to say, the heck with it, you're not increasing your speeds fast enough, we're going to do it ourselves, and that way that's going to put pressure on you to do it. And, if we neglect to upgrade the infrastructure, oh well, it achieved its goal. I think, as far as the question is how, what's the profit motive for this infrastructure, I guess is the question. If you're sort of a dumb pipe, and to my mind, the solution is to reverse your thinking about things, because at some point in history, what was once something you think of as a thing that sort of stands alone by itself, instead just becomes this very small part of something bigger. Sometimes is referred to as featureization. The thing that was once the product itself is now just a little piece of something else. Your watch is now just a piece of your cell phone, which is also your phone, your TV remote, your whatever. I think the internet is now like that. And so you look at companies like Google or Facebook that want to bring the internet to the world. I cannot imagine. Well, I could imagine them maybe dickering around in some ways to favor their own service. I really can't imagine them going at it with the mindset of, well, we're just going to build this at one connection speed and keep charging the same price for the next 30 years. Because their motive to keep improving the service is that the services they're delivering to you keep getting better. Now, you would have thought that a company like Xfinity that stood at the crossroads of their own gateway to the internet would have had this kind of thought and would be the Google of the internet in that regard. But they didn't. They didn't innovate. They just assumed their power over that gateway was enough.
Well, they did and they didn't. I mean, my understanding is that the network infrastructure, the internal network infrastructure that they have is awesome. That really that Comcast's internal network is really, really pretty good. The problem is they've got very few peering points to the rest of the internet. So as long as you're not leaving Comcast, which you have to do, you're in really good shape. which kind of implies that they were really hoping that you would stay in their network and not leave.
Well, it's like AOL, except that what they deliver ends up being a subpar experience, and this is always the risk. And I think every company is guilty to it to some degree when they sort of stand as the gatekeepers of something. Is this idea that if we build it, they will come because we own the gateway. No matter how much it stinks, no matter how much even we know that the other guy's stuff is better, we're saying everybody's going to keep using our stuff here at Comcast. But half of us are going home and watching Netflix at the end of the evening, totally oblivious to the change that's happening right in front of us.
Okay, so I think we're all in agreement, and as soon as Chef Dan returns from the stovetop and
We're back. And I had a little issue with the local streaming. I'm not sure if it was YouTube or what, but at some point I will have cut out and cut back in, but I should be back on now. But yeah, and that was just a couple seconds, I think. So yeah, it was pan roasted chicken with lemon. It's supposed to be prosciutto, but I got bacon instead because, and rosemary. So I'll post a photo of that in just a moment. All right, next up is, and I'm looking on our Google Plus Week Flipboard thing, which is also known as the lazy host's way to compile topics.
we have any comments, Dan?
We do. We have from Jeff Stoner. Lucky you, Dan. Every time I call Comcast Business, the tech that shows up says the same thing. I'm a video guy. I don't know nothing about that internet. Well, I think Jeff, I think you're in Winchester, right? You're local, I think. I don't think you're in Warren, but I could be wrong. But I think a lot of this is a lot of the problem folks have with the internet. If you're, for example, in a big apartment building with a bunch of college kids, when Netflix time comes around, you're probably going to have a lot of slowdown issues. Whereas I suffer because I literally live in a forest. I have bad cell service, but I have excellent internet because I think I'm the only person with internet. So there's not any kind of like backlog in quality there. And let me look that was a YouTube comment. So anyway, I'm looking on our Flipboard magazine here. It's called Google Plus Week with a PLUS, not the plus sign, so I don't get sued by our friends at Google. Even though they like us and we've had like their executives on here, that doesn't mean that some other silo, as Pam would correctly put it, might not sue me. So, okay, so this was kind of a non-story, but everyone's talking about it. Google apologizes for the Android robot peeing on an Apple logo in Google Maps. This was user-generated content, right? This is a bum rap on Google.
No, it's not a bum rap on Google.
Oh, I stand corrected.
It was user-generated content, but this is still not a bum rap on Google. Google should be skewered and roasted over the fire for this one.
Peed upon, in other words. They should be urinated on for this outrage. Sorry. Go ahead, Alan.
So the short story here is that this morning it was discovered there was an image of an Android peeing on an apple that you could see at the right resolution in Google Maps. And within a few hours, Google was able to take it down and blamed a particular user who was using the MapMaker program and submitted this content. What's not clear is that how it got past all of the reviewers that are supposed to be reviewing maps for updates to make sure that things like this don't happen, and to make sure that things like, roads disappearing don't happen. I think this is a big deal, and I think it's a big deal because it really goes to the heart of how much are we supposed to be able to trust Google to produce quality results for us. I've been criticized for not having a sense of humor, and I'll agree, I don't have a sense of humor. Any thoughts on this? Speaking of senses of humor, Pam. Okay, Sheila.
I beg to differ. People who we know Alan has a sense of humor.
No, I'm this curmudgeon. I'm this dull, boring person.
Oh yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
I only wish they could have found a place called Urinistan or Pissistan or something like that. That would have been hilarious. Even more hilarious. much ado about nothing.
Yes, you
You
know,
know, I really just I seriously,
you know,
two things, right? So first, who the hell found it?
Yeah, that's
Right?
a good one.
Did the person who created it did they leak it? Hey, look what I did, which
they
is what I
leak it? I
think
saw what you did
happened
there.
on.
I saw what you did there, Pam. Did they leak it?
You know, on Reddit or 4chan or something, and then it just, you know, of course, I'm assuming it's a he. I apologize to all the males who are offended by that, but I'm pretty sure it's a dude. Um, he just couldn't keep his mouth shut, right? So that's probably what happened, and I, it. Who would have
You know-
seen it? Who would be looking for something like that? Who would think, holy crap, you know, out in the middle of the middle of nowhere? I mean, isn't it in Kazakhstan or something like
It was
that?
in Pakistan, and
Pakistan.
it was actually near a major center. I mean, it's not that far in the middle of nowhere, but
I'm surprised in Pakistan they didn't have the little guy throwing a shoe at the apple.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Having lived in Pakistan, I know that's
So you
far
know
worse
it's an
than pissing.
American. We could all play Sherlock and try and figure out.
Obviously, a culturally clueless American, because the shoe would have been far funnier and more regionally accurate. But I digress, as I often do. All right, so we're all embarrassed at this obvious faux pas on the part of Google.
I consider it to be no real big deal personally. I'm gonna disagree with Alan here. I think that Google Maps is probably single-handedly the greatest cartographic effort that's ever been undertaken and has come light years closer to accurately mapping the world as it exists at this moment than any other mapping effort in the whole of history, and then all other mapping efforts probably combined and then multiplied by a billion. So it's very easy to find fault. There are going to be mistakes. They're going to learn from those mistakes. And I think, obviously, people, for example, who are using Google Maps navigation really need to pay attention to the fact that there's a beta label on that thing. Don't just trust the little voice speaking out of your phone and drive right into a wall or a river or something.
exactly.
you know, Eli, that's great now, but what about my self-driving car?
Keep your eyes on the road and
If your self-driving car can recognize a pedestrian running out in front of you, I would hope it can recognize a big wall or body of water about to come up on you. One would hope that it doesn't simply blindly follow the map instructions without actually looking at what's ahead of you with that LiDAR system.
Yeah, self-driving cars, self whatever, you still have to be in control.
The whole point of a self-driving car is you're not in control.
Yeah, no, it's not a self-driving car in my book until I can lay back and read something on my tablet while it drives me somewhere.
I mean,
Come on, Alan.
Sheila, the whole point of a self-driving car is that humans are incredibly fallible.
I, for one, welcome our robot overlords. May death come swiftly to their enemies.
Okay, Chef Dan, how's dinner coming?
Well, I posted a photograph of said dinner.
Good, so let's move on to the next subject.
Did
Okay.
you eat any of it? Does it taste good or does it just look good?
The kid has eaten over half of it already.
Okay, you're.
He says it's very good.
I was gonna say just so you know,
He's eaten 8.
18-year-old kids would eat shit
Anything.
if they were hungry enough.
No, I know he really likes it because there's no cheese on it and he's still eating it. So,
Yeah, well, if it makes you feel better, my dinner's been posted too, Dan.
Well, if you look at my feed, I've posted it, and it's pretty badass. So, and Alan can't have any because he was mocking my reduction.
Fine. Thing is, I'll go check yours out. You check mine later.
Sorry,
I'll
I had a wonderful pork with a garlic on it. It was absolutely delicious this evening.
Was it to die for?
I'm not sure I'd die for it. I mean, I'm still alive. What the hell's the point of dying for dinner?
Yeah, I just hope we don't die from what I cooked.
Unless you're like the pig that you just that sacrificed itself to be my pork dinner. But
I like to pretend that
next subject, Dan.
pork grows in
Next.
rectangles on styrofoam.
Next.
All right, so this was interesting, and there was a pretty heated debate about this. I think this was a George Cozy story. He shared this, and I totally see both sides, and I probably lean in John Deere's direction as far as the law.
How about you tell us what story you're talking about?
The story says John Deere says they own all the tractors, not the farms who pay for them, or the farmers who pay for them. Now, the bottom line, the anecdote here was, this is from Mike Elgin, our friend from Twit, who's been on an Android show, and a farmer was in his John Deere tractor, and apparently they're very, very technologically advanced now versus the old tractor days. For example, they might have GPS and they kind of guide you and are like an airplane on autopilot. So the guy had the thing just shut down because there was an error code, like a check engine light equivalent. So he called John Deere. He said, is there any way I can like just let the thing continue to operate even though I know it's check engine light and I'll figure this out later? And they said, no, you have to have an authorized service guy come out. So it was an hour and a half for the authorized service guy to come out. He diagnosed it as a low voltage or low power thing. So he needed a new battery. So he didn't have one with him. So he had to drive an hour and a half back to the shop and then an hour and a half back to the farm to install a battery so he could operate his, I would imagine, several $100,000 tractor. And the guy was like, this is BS. And so the spin on this particular article was that you don't own the tractor. They do, but that's not a fair analysis. You could, you own it. You could scrap it for metal. You could, but then I could draw all sorts of analogies, and this gets to, the DMCA. I guess you could throw that in there, and all sorts of copyright law, and et cetera, et cetera.
That's exactly John Deere's argument.
Exactly. The DMCA is not some, that's kind of similar. That's the actual argument here.
Well, what they're saying is it's proprietary software that is included with the thing, and when you buy it, you agree to their terms.
So what? Here's the thing. Proprietary software is a modern buzzword that software companies, actually that non-software companies are using to hide the fact that they're just, trying to sweep things under the rug and make it more difficult for you to look at. Once upon a time, they might have claimed something like proprietary hardware. And, despite the fact that you can look at these gears, even though, you had to pry open the black box to look at them. This is horse shit. Your thoughts, Eli?
Hang on, Eli, but let me advance it to this question. Okay, so I'm going to buy a McDonald's.
We're going to advance it beyond horse shit. Wow.
I'm going to buy a McDonald's. Yeah, well, that was an appropriate dig there. Tractors and all. Okay, so I'm going to buy a McDonald's. It's got the McDonald's logo. I signed all the forms saying I'm buying a McDonald's. And then I'm going to decide, you know what? I own the restaurant, not McDonald's. And so I'm going to stop selling hamburgers and I'm going to start selling pizza instead. And then McDonald's says, wait a minute, you can't do that. You own a McDonald's, you signed a contract, you bought it, and you got to sell our menu because that's what we advertise, that's what we do.
Dan?
Yep.
I should have stopped you on this like 5 minutes ago.
Okay,
because
go ahead.
That's such a false equivalency that's not even funny.
Well, if you can come up with a better one.
It also really doesn't make sense because if you own the restaurant space, you absolutely could, as a franchisee of McDonald's, say, screw it, I don't want to be McDonald's anymore. I'm going to turn this into a pizza restaurant. You could absolutely do that. What you could not continue to do would be to, have the golden arches and McDonald's on your sign and still capitalize on their trademark and branding.
It's
But
also
here,
Eli. Sorry, I'll get. It's also worth noting, however, that even as a McDonald's franchisee, you are allowed to do things beyond what McDonald's says you do.
With
This
their
is-
permission. I mean, the Egg McMuffin was famously created. A lot of their dishes were
Right.
created with permission, and
Not with permission. They were created by a local franchisee, and the parent company eventually found out about it and adopted it.
Are you
You'll
sure? Because I
also
thought it was a
notice that
major
all-
franchisee in the case of the Egg McMuffin, and he knew Ray Kroc, and he and Ray Kroc got together and said, you know what, we want Eggs Benedict, but that's not practical because you got raw egg in there, and it doesn't keep well. And the guy said, well, let me try this. I think it was not an inside job, but it was approved, but it makes for a more glamorous story to say some franchisee did it, but I think he was all but in bed with Ray Kroc.
No, there are a number of cases where it was not all in bed, all but in bed with Ray Kroc. There are cases where franchises started their own thing, and it got adopted later.
Sadly, it
Furthermore,
wouldn't be
you
a
have
bad
cases-
idea in the case of McDonald's right now because they're in the tank, which is very sad, but that's a whole separate story.
Alan is right that I think that they, in order to, I believe, create their own McDonald's recipe, somebody on the staff, I believe, has to have gone to one of those, they give them some fancy name, Burger University or something things, and they learn how to use the basic ingredients, but then they can absolutely come back to their franchise and make a unique take on a burger or whatever that has not been approved in advance. But here's where the equivalence fails. John Deere is not saying, look, these are users who signed an agreement with us that said, you're licensing the software inside of this thing from us, and you have to use it according to certain terms. There wasn't even a little pop-up thing that they clicked real fast and didn't read, like iTunes Terms of Service. They're arguing that the license is implied. That is literally what they're calling it, is an implied license to use it according to licensing terms you have never agreed to.
When you
Ever.
buy a book, they own the copyright. Well, this gets, I guess,
That's
maybe
not
a better
license.
analogy
That's
is
not a license. That's a legality.
maybe
You would not legally, for example, John Deere would absolutely be in the clear to say you cannot take the code out of our thing and put it on the internet. We own a copyright on that. That's not what they're saying. What they're saying is you can only use it in ways we approve, even though you never actually agreed to any license. You
I don't
didn't
think.
even
Well, hold
when
on
you were
though. I don't
buying
think
it
that's
that
the
there
case
was
though,
any
Eli. I
software
think the
in
case.
there.
I think the situation was they would not tell him what the error code meant, and they wouldn't tell him how to override it.
Yes,
that
but
doesn't
what
mean
this
that
has
he isn't
brought up
free.
are- no,
he
but-
was free
but what-
to rip the computer guts out of the machine, which would have rendered it
Yes.
useless. But
Yes,
they
he could
simply
rip
were
the
not
guts
willing to
out,
provide
but
him
what-
with that information.
But what he could not do was he could not go to somebody who wasn't approved by them and change the behavior of the system so that it would simply ignore that error light and let him keep going like he wanted to. Now, you can argue with the wisdom of him wanting to do that, and honestly, I can't see a good reason why he would want to do that. But if it was just a machine with parts we were talking about, nobody would question you had the right to do that. As long as it didn't, I don't know, cause your vehicle to start emitting pollutants that violated local pollution laws or something, you'd be allowed to do that. Their argument is that by simply buying the tractor, you have agreed, without signing anything, without even reading anything, you have agreed to an implied license, their term, to use the software only the way they approve.
Well,
This
to be
is not
fair
about
though,
putting it
Eli,
out there. This is not copyright protection. This is about how you use it. So this, to use your book example, would be like them saying, you can buy our book, but you can't read it in your bathroom.
okay, so Eli, let me ask you a question. You've got some telephone operator at John Deere with some level of skill about these things. I have no clue, right? Basically, we're into like engineering. This is a low run item by definition. I don't know how many hundreds or in the low thousands of these tractors are made, right? This is not like in every Walmart you can buy an $800,000 tractor, right? So this is probably they're in a constant state of beta and in flux. You've got a phone operator who's being asked by Farmer Bob to give him the methodology to bypass an engine warning and to continue to operate the vehicle, which could potentially, theoretically, I have no clue, result in him destroying and causing a $100,000 repair, which might put the operator on the hook for some sort of liability, right? So we don't know all those facts. This was written from the perspective. The headline tells you the perspective that this article was written on. And I'm just trying to say, let's be fair. And I mean, I get the sentiment.
I am trying to be fair, but that's not. Look, if this was just a situation of some guy who didn't know any better on customer service was saying, something, and it was just a miscommunication, then they wouldn't have kept pushing this argument in court that, that in their words, when you buy a John Deere, you buy an implied license for the lifetime of the tractor to use their software according to terms you've never agreed to and most likely have never read and didn't even know existed because you weren't even thinking of the thing as a computer. You were thinking of it as a vehicle.
Okay,
Eli. That's in my mind the point. I agree to an iTunes terms of service.
I'm
When
calling.
I buy a tractor, I'd have not agreed to John Deere's terms of service unless I signed something.
So now, now you're in your new Tesla, and you're calling 1-800-411-TESLA or Elon, whatever. And you're like, yeah, I got a check engine light and my Tesla is disabled for some reason. My $120,000 Tesla. Could you tell me what the code means and how to bypass that so I can continue to drive the car?
Dan,
And maybe the operator's not going to do that.
Dan, here's the thing. Okay, once upon a time, you own a John Deere tractor. Okay?
Once
It
upon a
doesn't work
time,
with-
you owned a Ford Model T, and now there's computers and shit in there. And
Hush
it's
up and let
different.
me finish.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You own a John Deere trailer. It stops working for some reason or another. You open the hood. You tinker around with it. You get it running again. You can't do that anymore.
Correct.
Why not?
Because people like you have screwed everything up with your damn pewters.
No. People like me want you to be able to mess around with that source code.
Oh, not with a vehicle and not with proprietary code. This is not open source. This is a
Well,
very
why the hell
competitive.
isn't it? Bye, guys who have to leave.
Dan,
Why the hell isn't it, Dan?
Bye, Eli.
if they had signed, no, I was saying goodbye to the people who had to leave.
Oh, okay.
If these buyers had signed something, a form, if they'd even checked yes on a pop-up box that said, by buying a John Deere tractor, you agree through the lifetime of this vehicle that this software can only be used in approved ways. That means no modification whatsoever of how the vehicle operates in relation to what the parts of the software controls. If they'd signed that, yes. But that is not the case here. John Deere is arguing there is an implied license.
Well, legally,
This
are they
is like-
right?
This is no, absolutely not.
Hey,
You can't have an implied license when no reasonable person would expect there to be an implied
Even though I
license.
suspect Pam's heart might agree with you, I think her brain is probably on my side on this. Pam?
No,
Oh,
actually.
okay.
So I own a truck, and that truck has a computer in it, at least one, probably more than one. And when the check engine light comes on, we have to access the code to find out why it's on, right? So we take it down to the repair place, and they hook it up to a thing, and it spits out the reason, and then we get it fixed. The people who service our truck are just some mechanics down there. They don't say Chevrolet approved. They don't say, Toyota approved. There's no. I mean, I'm sure that they go to school, take a course or whatever in Toyota or Chevy or whatever. But the truth is that I can get the code online, and I can buy a device that I can hook up to my truck and it will tell me the code. Well, another thing about my truck is it has a governor on it. I can only go 94 miles an hour.
Only.
If I try to go 95 miles an hour, the engine shuts off until the car reaches 94 miles an hour, in which case the engine will re-engage. Well, they sell all kinds of shit online that will override that. You know, it's my freaking truck. I paid the money, unfortunately. You know, I can tell you how much I paid for it. It's an old truck, so you'd laugh, but you know, I didn't pay as much as they're worth now, but I actually purchased the truck. I paid my mid 5 figures for it, and it's mine.
Pam,
and
here's
I
the
can
here's
go
the
and
argument.
modify it, and I can stick stuff on it, and I can, you know, do all kinds of stuff to it.
Is
and,
it a
and I
mainstream
can
truck?
alter, what?
Is it a mainstream truck? I mean, it's like a Ford or
Chevy
Chevy.
Silverado.
Okay, so that's a mainstream vehicle with probably tens of thousands of that particular model year in existence, maybe hundreds of thousands for all we know. I don't know. This is a lower volume thing, and
It doesn't matter what the volume is. The purchase of a piece of machinery is the same. I'm
correct.
purchasing
But
it.
just
and
because
once
it's
I own
available
it,
doesn't
I
mean
can
it's
do whatever
authorized.
the F I want with it.
Right, but just because technically, I mean, logistically probably yeah, but technically probably you're in the same boat as the farmer guy. The only difference is there are so few of these high-end tractors compared to Chevy Silverados that more people have an opportunity to tinker with the Chevys. Whereas if there were just as many of these John Deere tractors out there, it might be the same situation.
Dan, that's completely irrelevant according to John Deere. And in fact, every major auto manufacturer would agree with John Deere and say that no, you don't have a right.
That's what I'm
whatsoever.
saying. Just because it's available on the internet, that's not because Chevy allows it and John Deere doesn't. It's because there are so many out there that people have tinkered and come up with these solutions. That doesn't mean they're authorized by Chevrolet
Well, I think they should
or by
be.
General
I think
Motors.
they should be allowed. I mean, authorized carries an official term, but allowed because you own it, I don't think there should be any question.
Should I be allowed to
And
take?
if I may have like 30 seconds
Yes,
of
sir.
soapbox. I am sick and tired of the concept of personal ownership of property being diluted further and further and further in this culture with every generation, and we're allowing it. I'm sick of the fact that I can't take the ebooks I bought on Amazon and read them in the Google bookstore. I'm sick of the fact that according to a Supreme Court ruling back in the 90s, I no longer own the earth down to the center of the earth beneath my house. Some company can dig a deep hole and bury deadly crap that'll come up generations later and kill people if they want to. I'm sick of this dilution, and I'm sick of us letting them get away with it. We need to push back. This is the line. You have the object. You can tamper with it however the heck you want. Get out of my house.
Eli, if it's any consolation, you do own 300 feet above your house. If that makes
Well,
you
that
feel.
doesn't really do me a lot of good, does it? Mineral rights to the air
Yeah.
are a little hard to
That
enforce.
and $3 will get you a cup of coffee at Starbucks. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I see both sides of this. Yeah, I'd be frustrated in that situation. The anecdote that they laid out was that you know, in the story about the guy, and it was like some stupid ass replace a battery thing, and they wouldn't simply. He was frustrated, like, why don't you tell me buy a new freaking battery or go on Amazon buy a battery or whatever, and he's done. Instead, it's like $800 for some, you know, super techno geek, and it's like a racket. I get that totally. That, you know, you can find these anecdotes. The other side is I can understand why the operator might have been reluctant, because maybe that code means multiple things, as it does on a Ford Taurus. A code could mean multiple things. And even the iFixit guy who's launching this campaign for the right to repair, which is a noble cause, but even he acknowledges that this is a low volume, very expensive, and very high-tech tractor that does things like it allows you to plant more crops on your property than you otherwise could have, because it utilizes GPS and things to know exactly where it's going, and it's much more efficient, and it's got a lot of proprietary technology that they're worried about, you know, competitors getting their hands on. So I'm just trying to say,
shit! I could just buy an $800,000 tractor and take it the fuck apart. Come on.
and you're allowed to do. I'm sure that they couldn't. I don't know what recourse they would have if you literally dismantle this thing. And in fact,
So
probably this guy
every
signed a
business-
bunch of stuff. Had this guy bought this tractor used on eBay, I think he'd have more of an argument.
Everything that I buy, this computer that I'm using tonight, my cell phone, actually still on contract, so technically it's not mine, but the computer is mine. While it's under warranty, it even says if you open the frickin' thing yourself and try to alter it, you have voided the warranty. That is where John Deere's rights end. If you open the frickin' thing and alter it, you voided its warranty. So if you've got an extra 800 grand lying around, sure, go ahead, keep driving it. Right?
Actually,
Take it to Joe Schmo's tractor shop and have them tinker with it and see if they can get that light off. That's fine. But if you're then we're not going to fix it in the future, and it's not going to be under warranty. Then that's okay. You know?
Actually, Dan, you made a statement a moment ago that I think is wrong. You know, if he had bought it under eBay, he would have had more rights. Actually, he probably would have been arrested for possession of stolen property.
You can't sell it used?
No, of course not.
Are you serious?
I
missed
don't
that. I
know
read the article. I
specifics,
shared it. Did I miss that?
I mean, I don't know the specifics, but it really wouldn't surprise me if you couldn't
Well,
sell
no,
it.
my argument is that if you buy it new, first of all, a loan's involved, and you're signing multiple forms, and probably if you're talking about voiding the warranty, that probably would have put him in trouble with whoever has insured him and secured the loan and has a lien against it, right? Because you don't just buy an 800. Most farmers, go in deep millions of dollars in debt every year, and then they sell their stuff and they pay it off, and they go millions of dollars in debt the next year. That's the way the business works, at least on this
and Dan,
small
you don't
farmer.
think that as part of that, John Deere actually retained the right to the damn equipment?
I don't know, honestly. I don't know if it's like Monsanto or if it's like the Chevy Silverado where you can just sell it.
And that's kind of part of our argument here, what the three of us are saying.
My
is that a
point
lot
was
of
that the
license
initial
term-
purchaser probably signed a bunch of things. Somewhere on there it said you agree to our terms of service found on this website. They're subject to change without notice, and you agree to abide by them.
No. You can't buy something and take it home and then they change the terms of service. This
Legally,
isn't
you can.
No.
Legally,
is
you
not-
can.
this-
You could
no,
say
wait,
it's wrong,
wait,
but it's legal, I think.
Wait. It's different when you subscribe to something on a monthly basis, right? Then they can go in and change it. But if I buy a vacuum cleaner and I take it home and then Hoover decides that they're going to change the terms of service of their warranty or whatever, bullshit. They can't do that.
The software-
The vacuum
So
that I
Dan,
bought.
no, wait. So Dan, so you think it's perfectly acceptable for Tesla to change the terms of service on the software in your car so that they suddenly doesn't run?
You're intersposing perfectly acceptable when I said legal.
So you think it's perfectly legal for Tesla to change
Look.
the terms of service on the software so you can no longer drive your car?
Slavery used to be legal. It's always been wrong.
Answer
I'm not
the question,
saying it's
Dan.
perfectly acceptable.
Answer the question, Dan. Don't wait for the translation.
Do I think it's perfectly acceptable? I'm on the fence.
No, I said legal.
But it might be perfectly legal.
So somebody note the time when we hit reductio ab slavery in the conversation. I'm just gonna say one more thing, and then I gotta take off. Dad, you said you brought up the question of their being concerned that all this investment they put into it's going to get out there somehow. Well, but going after like worrying about the guy who wants to tamper with the functioning of the engine in relation to warning signals, on the idea that that's going to protect your intellectual property. It's like Coca-Cola going after some guy who's mixing Jack and Coke on the theory that that's going to protect the secret ingredients of Coca-Cola. Those secrets are A, not threatened by those people, and B, highly protected by other things. Look, at this point, if somebody really wants to know what the secret ingredient of Coca-Cola is, they can absolutely figure it out. They can rip that thing down to an atomic level. You know why nobody can reproduce Coca-Cola? A little thing called trade secrets. If you expose their trade secret, you'd be committing a crime. Probably one that would probably be the first $1 trillion lawsuit on the planet.
I don't know if it's
infinite
illegal.
Protections
They've never trademarked
scenario, and these guys are the most low ball guys to try to go after.
I think that's actually not analogous, Eli, because they've never copyrighted or trademarked the recipe.
I did not say trademark. I said
the word you're looking for is patent.
Patented. They've never patented it because to patent it, you have to reveal it. And everyone in the world is trying to copy Coke.
I didn't say they patented it. I said what they had was trade secrets. That's a particular category. As a matter of fact, believe it or not, and this is one of those controversies about the Church of Scientology and why are they still a tax-exempt organization.
Oh my God, and you busted me for bringing slavery in.
They claim that their holy doctrines are trade secrets. Businesses have trade secrets, not churches.
Only on this program.
You cannot sneak into Coca-Cola on the attempt to steal their secret ingredient. You would be violating the law because they have trade secrets. No, it's not a patent or a copyright, but it's a protection from anybody trying to steal the secret.
Only on this program could we inject race and religion into an argument about tractors. And nobody would think that was weird. Okay.
Okay, well, now we just have to bring up the Nazis, and that way, and then we'll have the whole trifecta.
Or we could just go on to the next story.
We could talk about Bruce Jenner. That's controversial. So, I can't wait to see that. I'm actually very curious about that, and I don't normally do like tabloid TV stuff. Okay, or entertainment stuff, and I could give a damn about the Kardashians. I'm proud to say I've never watched any of those episodes. Okay, so we've done the peeing robot. Here I am criticizing reality television, the Kardashians, and so far we've done an exploding Comcast, Android urinating, and race and Scientology. Okay, so Fi. Fee-fi.
Is it pronounced Fee or Fi?
It's a ode to Wi-Fi, right? It's a Wi-Fi calling. So
yeah, it's got to be Fi.
What this is Google is on a very limited basis. I think this only impacts for now the Nexus 6, which is a high-end Android phone at a not a high-end price, an affordable price, but a good, solid phone from what I hear, and in a partnership with Sprint and T-Mobile. Ironic because they don't quite get along. In fact, I think virulent hatred might be not too strong. But your phone, based on where you are, will separate between Sprint or T-Mobile, or if there's a public Wi-Fi spot or your home Wi-Fi that you're logged into, then it will make a call over there. So I got to tell you, my experience with Wi-Fi calling has been on and off. It was really good for a while, then crappy. But maybe I need a new Wi-Fi antenna. But I don't know. Even my Obi box sucks now. I'm not sure what's going on. But this is limited scale. Is this the wave of the future? Are we gonna? Is this a big deal? I mean, how many people own a Nexus 6 and will qualify for this? I mean, in the tens of thousands, maybe.
Here's
in the universe
what we know.
Of billions.
We know that at least 95% of all Android users won't be able to take advantage of this. You look like you're about to say something, Eli, and I know you need to leave.
No, you're absolutely right. The network switching technology is rather unique, and that's why only the Nexus 6 at launch is supported. Actually, though, Project Fi explains what I was always wondering about the sudden jump in Nexus pricing from Nexus 5 to Nexus 6. Well, obviously now in retrospect, the Nexus 6 had to have been developed with Project Fi in mind. They obviously intended it to be their high-end flagship at-launch product, and we already know from various sources that Motorola is one of the OEMs that's lining up to make additional phones. Would not be surprised to see that come within the first 6 months to a year of consumer launch, that you'll have more options. We're not at consumer launch yet.
Eli,
It is
prediction.
a
Question for you, Eli.
Okay.
2 months from today, is this a product right now? This is working, or this is like vaporware until?
invitation only at the moment.
Okay, so 3 months from now, will more people have this functioning, or will more people have Froyo running on their freaking phone?
I suspect 3 months from now, more people will still have Froyo. They'll probably yeah.
So
Look,
this
it's
is
gonna-
a dramatic
it's a
leap for
small-
mankind.
it's Nexus 6 only. Of course, it's going to be small.
Will
at
more
first. And in
VCR
fact-
players
and
be
in fact,
used on a daily
Sprint
basis, or will more
retained-
people?
Sprint actually retained an escape valve. If it gets too popular, they can kill it. So Google can't even aim to make this like the dominant thing.
They can kill
But
their
here's what-
involvement in it, or they can kill the whole thing.
Yeah, they can kill the deal. They can kill their part of the bandwidth, which I guess would leave them with only T-Mobile, which is, you might as well just go with T-Mobile with Wi-Fi calling at that point.
13 people will be really pissed off. Yeah.
But here's what I think is really cool about Project Fi, and what I think a lot of people are not getting, is that this is a VoIP carrier. The software infrastructure that powers your basic voice and text plan on this is Google Voice / Hangouts. And this is why it's so easy to switch devices, why you can get and receive. Look, I already have this. I have, other than the fact that I'm not on their particular data plan, which would be better, I already have this. I am a Google Voice Hangouts user, and
Yeah.
it's a great service. It works fantastically. So
Really? You think it's a great service that works fantastic?
It does. I use it all the time, and
I use it
works
almost none of the time.
fantastically.
I use it almost none of the time, and the reason why I use it almost none of the time is because I have horrible connectivity with it, I have horrible lag, and I have drops all over the place. And I know I'm not the only one
That
that thinks that.
sounds. But you live out in the boonies.
No, I'm talking about when I'm on my home Wi-Fi.
Ah.
I'm not talking about when I'm trying to use a cellular carrier.
Have you bought a new router lately?
Yeah.
I'm not having that problem. I didn't even have that problem with anything like that with just using it 3G, and they just recently gave the system the infrastructure for that a big overhaul too.
And here's the
So I
kicker.
think this is the direction of things: is that voice and text are just going to be carried over data like everything else.
I think so too, and I agree with you there. I'm just concerned that it's not quite there yet, and it's kind of ironic that Michael Ellis is not joining us right now, probably because his Hangout connection died again, because he's seen the same problems as well, and I know lots of people have problems with voice over Hangouts. It's great in theory, and I really want to see it there, and it's probably gotten better, but it's still not there yet.
Well, try it again. Like I said, it was just very recent that they did another overhaul of the infrastructure. It may just be your area wasn't getting great service to it, and maybe it's doing better now. But I just think it's utterly fascinating that Google Voice, which was originally an attempt, or at least they were considering, really making a big push into the VoIP market, over like landline tech back in the day when Vonage and things like that were coming out, is that the underlying concept is now recycled brilliantly into this new model of carrier where the device is essentially irrelevant. You carry your phone number everywhere. Yes, only the Nexus 6 is supported for the cellular service. That's because of the antenna switching technology. But like Google Voice, you can still send and receive calls over anything else that has an internet connection. So I personally hope that I get a chance to try this because it would save me a lot of money over any other plan that I've tried personally, looking at the finances.
I got a question. This is about going, I guess, not from an analog to a digital, but it's. I was having a similar conversation. I was talking about this and with Craig Shipp, and he brought up we were discussing television and how there is still a bottleneck with cable television where they only have so much spectrum that they can push out X number of channels. So they can't carry every single channel out there. However, if they switch to a totally digital solution, if you switched from channel 4 to channel 7, it's not sending you every single channel simultaneously. It's sending you just the channel you're watching. Just like if you switch on your computer, you pause Netflix and you switch to Amazon Prime or Hulu, then you've got it's not sending everything at once. The downside is it's sending a single stream to each person. But are we going to get to that point? And would that be an improvement? What's taking them so long? Then Comcast could offer literally every channel in the whole world, as long as they had the rights to it.
What's taking them so long? Partly it's bandwidth and management thereof, and partly it's because they're a pack of flaming idiots that are stuck with this legacy infrastructure and they can't get their mental model out of it. This is actually what really frustrated me about Google Fiber, is that when they rolled it out with channels and, using the same old model instead of going with this new model. I'm not entirely sure how that relates to Google Fi, but whatever. I don't know. I'm not sold on Google Fi. I looked at the pricing for it, and even if I had a device that it worked with, which I don't, it's not clear to me that it would save me any money for my usage.
Who's the market here other than tinkerers?
The market here is for people who have relatively low data requirements. One of the things I see a lot of people are disappointed with it because it doesn't offer unlimited data. And for the amount of data that they're currently using, they would be paying 2 to 3 times the amount that they're currently paying. $10 a gig sounds good, but over time it adds up. The good news for it is that it's got incredibly flexible about how it uses it. You're really only paying for exactly what you use, not for what you may want to use, not for a theoretical maximum. You only are using what you're paying. You're only paying for what you're actually using. But that seems pretty odd for a company that wants you to get more data.
I don't get why it's so expensive. Sprint, I have my tablet. I have like a 3 gig plan. My phone is unlimited, and you can trash them all you want with good reason, but because what I hear is Verizon and AT&T are better in that order. But when I'm driving, I'm watching CNN. I drove all the way to North Carolina, Waynesville, through Tennessee, and I was watching CNN the whole time almost, or listening to it, right? I wasn't watching it. It was on the seat. But it hiccuped very rarely, and it was a wonderful experience. It was full video, or whatever, on the phone, CNN, and it's unlimited data. But then if I, use a tablet, then it's very metered, and I'm not sure why, because I don't think it uses any more bandwidth on a tablet than it does on a phone. But I just think they're being unnecessarily stingy. But I don't know what it costs to operate that kind of bandwidth. Let me go to some comments here. I think the comment tracker does appear to be working, kind of, sort of. So I see Cybernaut... cable is shared media. DSL is dedicated, so DSL customers don't see a slowdown unless the CO central office is overwhelmed. He says, "Okay, Google, navigate to Apple headquarters. Head west, turn right at the stream." And he says the Jacquard Loom ran on proprietary software. Interesting. That was
and see how many Jacquard looms you have around today, huh?
That was fairly weak argument. Let me see if I missed anything here. Okay, so all right. Next up, did you see that Google will let you see everything you've ever searched? I don't know why they keep
Duh.
You know, it'd be really nice
That's the point.
if they would let you see your posts in search. They're a frickin' search engine, and you can't find any of your posts unless you are the master of keywords or so OCD that you have cataloged all of your posts in a Excel spreadsheet along with key phrases that you can search. There, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Inside, I can get more from going outside of Google Plus to Google and doing a keyword search there than I can trying to search my own posts from within Google Plus. And now, you know, if they can give you everything that you've ever searched with, oh my God, I can just imagine what the NSA would think if they saw the list of the stuff that I searched just yesterday because I was looking for this particular gross photo to gross someone out with, and so I happened to search some stuff that, you know, normally I wouldn't, but you know,
And that's saying something.
if Google can do that, then why can't they just have an effective search? Sometimes Google just, I don't know.
They're so good at so much, but their basic search sometimes fails miserably.
Yeah.
So, again, can you explain something to me about this story, which I'm having trouble with?
Okay.
How is this news?
I don't know. I mean, it was on the Hill. It was once again, the thing that caught my eye was that once again everyone's freaking out. Oh my God, Google is tracking it. That's the whole point. That's the thing. That, I mean, we want relevant search results, and the biggest gripe is I want to be able to say, you know, Cracker Barrel, and it realizes where I am, and it knows the local Cracker Barrel, and it, you know, the one I go to, and those are.
Dan, focus here. Focus, please.
I'm focusing.
No, you're not. We're talking about, I mean, search result history. This isn't news. They've been doing this for years. You've had the opportunity to look at it for years. You've had the opportunity to edit and delete it for years.
Right.
Why is this now happening? Why is this now a sudden revelation?
I think it's important that we keep track of the fact that these media organizations continue to make a thing like what Microsoft did with the Scroogled campaign, that awful, stupid thing that was criticizing Google for like one of their most valuable features, that they give you relevant search results, not only based on their initial algorithm that said that the more credible sources link to a potential result, the more weight they give it, but also your preferences, your Gmail, and you know that this is a good thing. And most people wouldn't know that you could edit that and delete things, and most people wouldn't bother doing that. More people will have Project Fi than would know how to do that. But I find it fascinating that these media organizations do this.
So I can go back and delete all of my search history if I wanted to, and they won't track it anymore, or what?
That's correct.
No, they'll still. Well, they won't. I mean, if you put it in there again, they'll add it. But yeah, you can do that. It won't. Sadly, it won't catch all your incognito searches, which is probably where all the good stuff is.
You know, I forget to do incognito. I probably should have done that grosser than gross picture that I found incognito. I think that would have probably
You're probably
been
on
better. But...
any number of government lists.
Oh, I'm sure that, you know, they think I am quite the interesting character. So, heaven forbid they've got a profiler trying to figure out what the hell I'm going to do next, because it's pretty random. Just say it's your birthday tomorrow. You know, I'm going to search for something completely out of character for that. So.
All right, so that happened. Next is on our Flipboard Magazine Google Plus week, Jay-Z's Tidal app flops. I saw this and I wasn't impressed, given what's out there. And the gist of it is, you got Jay-Z and Beyonce, two of the most popular, talented, hottest singers, musicians, musical acts on the planet, and he created this thing. It's a streaming service. The basics are it's $10 a month for MP3 quality. I'm guessing like 128 megabits per second, something like that. And if you want CD quality, you pay $20 a month. And apparently, within like 2 weeks, they laid off a bunch of people. It's such a flop. So this was not surprising to me. Any real world, I mean, do you know anybody who was even considering this? And I guess there's so many free options out there. Like I have Prime Music, which is quite good. I don't pay anything. I can skip all I want. There's no commercials. I got the kid to try it. He wasn't particularly impressed because he's used to Spotify and that has all his social interaction or his social, his friends and lists already in there. So it's sort of the power of the incumbency competing against this. But do you guys have any thoughts on Jay-Z's Tidal?
Nope, I almost completely ignored it when it rolled out, and I certainly ignored it ever since.
Apparently, you were not alone.
Once again, a service rolls out, it doesn't present a compelling reason to use it, and they're shocked when it doesn't get adopted.
Okay. All right, so while Pam rushes to the microphone. All right, so on Recode, I saw the story. Google puts out this thing. YouTube says people love mobile ads, is the headline. And what they said was, mobile viewers are 1.4 times more likely to watch ads when they're on phones than when they're on PCs or watching television. So they're more likely to watch an ad on a phone. And they're 1.8 times more likely to share those ads. The first statistic does not surprise me. The second statistic does surprise me. The thought that 1.4 times more people are likely to sit through an ad on mobile versus the computer, I think that is because it's so kludgy to click to close an ad early that you run the risk of clicking the ad and then having to wait while it loads. And then if you try to back out before it's done loading, you get in no man's land. It's a pain in the ass. So you suffer through it. And they're also short. They're 15 seconds usually. So I don't find it surprising that people watch them more. I don't think it's because they want to. I think it's because it's such a hassle to try to get your finger just right on that little X. Whereas on desktop, it's much easier. The fact that people are more likely to share them, I find very surprising. Any thoughts on this, Alan, as a developer guy? And
not really.
Kind of a snoozer topic, I guess. All right.
Compared to horse shit and, religion, yeah.
All right. So next on our rundown, do you want to talk about this ridiculous op-ed from Fox News or Fox Business? Why Google is the new evil empire? I just want to draw attention to it just because it's so ridiculous.
It's particularly amusing coming from News Corp. Is really all I have to say there.
The context, when I shared it, the context is just Google. It's in our Flipboard magazine. You can read the article. The title is "Why Google is the New Evil Empire." This is clearly a response to the Dear Rupert response to Rupert Murdoch trashing Google as he has been for quite some time. So, there you go. And then I think we've done the guy who took his gyro thing onto lawn of the Capitol, and God, I don't want to get into the EU thing again. Are we done with topics, or is there anything else burning that you wanted to hit?
Nope, that's it. Been a quiet week.
It has been a quiet
You were
week,
Lake Wobegon.
unless you're responsible for any sort of security in the nation's capital, in which case it's not been a particularly quiet week. All right, so I was hoping Cadeas could join us. I talked to him earlier today. We had a wonderful chat. Of course, as usual, it was all secret, so I can't reveal any of it. But I did make a nice chicken dish tonight with help from the kid. We made a great chicken dish. While we're waiting for Pam to come out of her slumber, Alan, how was your Google Plus week, sir?
Not too bad. My my OnePlus device finally upgraded to the latest version of CyanogenMod. It then promptly screwed up the installation, and took a little bit of convincing to get it to work. But now I'm finally playing around with it. Usual round of excitement with various Google products. Looking forward to I/O more and more. I can't wait to see what's actually going to roll out there. But otherwise, a pretty quiet week. How about you, Dan?
It's pretty good. Yesterday I got to hang out with two miniature horses, which were really cool. They're the size of like a black bear you might find in my backyard at any moment. And one was wild in that it had never been like tamed. It wasn't like captured, but it was in a field for some period of time. It had never been broken or whatever. And one they thought was a gelding and was purchased as a gelding, and then they discovered it was Hean and Sheehan, as they say, with the other horse, and so they discovered it was in fact a stallion. And then the owner of the horse explained to me how you turn a stallion into a gelding, and it didn't sound pleasant at all. Remind me of the whole Lorena Bobbitt controversy back in the day. Dating myself now. So that happened, and then we had some good food today, and good pizza day before yesterday. We cooked for somebody, so it was fun. And then next week I'll be busy making the paper up. So all that happened. Pam Adger, how was your Google Plus week?
It was good. I have repetitive stress injury, and my first never done physical therapy before, and I've been in physical therapy for twice now, and I'll be doing it. I don't know, however long my work will pay for it, I guess. And so I've been kind of not using the computer as much and doing the exercises that they asked me to do, and work is work. They were gonna move my cubicle to the intersection of two walkways. my cubicle would have been right there, and I said, "Oh no." So they're scrambling to change my location to somewhere less out in the open, and let's see, that's about it.
When you say repetitive stress, are we talking like carpal tunnel type stuff?
Because I sleep. It was my habit to sleep. My wrist would be bent back when I wake up, and it would be numb. I have been sleeping with a wrist brace for a couple of years, so I don't have the wrist problem. I have technically tennis elbow and tendonitis in my shoulder. So my workspace at work is as ergonomic as they can possibly make it. I've taken it's been like this for years. I've had it ergonomically situated for a long time, but my workstation at home is not. and I was working a lot at home. I was working nights and Fridays and weekends and stuff because it's been so busy. So they're not letting me work at home until I can get a keyboard tray and a good office chair here in the casita. Then they'll reassess, but it's from the computer.
Question: you have a Windows computer, right?
Yeah,
Have you
my work computer is Windows. Yeah.
just to? I'm not a my sister's an RN. I'm far from it, but have you? Even though like typing would be impossible backwards, but have you considered playing around with putting your mouse on the other side and going into your settings and reversing the buttons and trying to be ambidextrous at least on the mouse, because that's not as big a deal or as big an adjustment as like trying to write with the other hand, just to switch things up a bit. That's kind of a crazy idea, maybe. I'm not sure.
I'm not. I. Yes, I have thought about doing that, but I do need to. I do need to, at least at home, get the equipment that I need to sit correctly. Some of the other things, my posture's really bad, so I slouch, and so they're working on, building the muscles back up so that there's more of a balance. So I'm sitting up straighter, and things like that. It is how you sit, and it's how things are situated. If I have armrests, you rest your arm on them, and that pressure right there can create a lot of numbness and pain over time if you do it. I was just the situation at home is just really, really bad for me. So
One other suggestion I would just throw out there that I've used, because I am on a computer for my God, almost all waking hours if I'm not exercising or sleeping, or driving around, paying people, that sort of thing, meetings. But what I did was for my desk, it's an old government desk, and it's got 4 posts, and so I created a stand-up desk very easily. My mom actually bought these for me. They're bed risers. That's what they're designed for, and they're like 8 inches or whatever it is. And so that rose the desk up, and they look like red Solo cups, like giant red Solo cups, like this big.
Yeah.
And it was like $6 for 4 of them, or $10. I mean, it's dirt cheap. So I got one under each thing, and they're designed for a bed, which means potentially a large couple. So it certainly could handle my computer weight and stuff. So I've got that here, and I'm standing now. I've been standing the whole show, except one time I think I sat. And then when I want to cheat, when I'm tired, I've got a bar stool here behind me, so I can pull that up. But so I can mix it up. Sometimes I'm sitting at the desk when I'm feeling lazy, and then sometimes I'm standing. And I got a mat at Costco that I stand on, so I'm on a mat because when you're standing, it's an adjustment. It took a while. It was hard at first, but this kind of in fact, for the last several months, I've been standing for most of these shows, and I stand a lot at the computer. So that's another way to just sort of change the muscle pattern.
Yeah.
So just a couple ideas, which
Yeah. At work, what they're going to do is to get me a new chair. I opted for that rather than the standing desk, but definitely for here at home, it's interesting that you said that, because I am currently sitting in front of this drafting table that adjusts in height and also in tilt, and I could easily convert this to a standing sitting desk with the proper chair for sitting. But yeah, I have to do something, and not working at home and on the weekends is currently what they're asking me to do, to give it a rest. But yeah, so it's just it's going to be a long haul. This isn't it didn't come on quickly, and it's not going to go away quickly. So yeah, losing weight, quitting smoking. They actually said that smoking is actually a risk factor for this. So yeah, there's quite a few things I need to do. Getting off my ass and getting away from the computer is probably the best option I have now. But I will try your mouse trick at work.
Also consider
can
the for even
switch
home,
over
like when
there.
you're just screwing around, consider the bed risers. It's like an $8 solution, and some hassle
Yeah.
moving your stuff around. And for anybody who is considering the whole smoking thing, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I buried my uncle from lung cancer, and it's awful looking at someone in a box who he was only in his 60s. So maybe I would strongly encourage you to quit smoking if you're still smoking. Anybody, and if it's really hard, try what I recommend is the lozenges that you can buy, and they're like $30 for 108 of them at Walmart. And I've recommended this to several people, and it's worked. There's all sorts of. My mom quit with the gum. My dad quit cold turkey, but it's worth it. I mean, you can wean yourself off or not, but even if you stick with the damn lozenges forever, like Obama's chewing the gum still, like years later, it's still better than smoking, and you'll be able to walk upstairs without freaking out. Anyway, I recommend a couple. There's several really interesting Supreme Court stories that didn't make the news this week because there was so much more pressing stuff, like Hillary Clinton robbing a Chipotle grill, according to surveillance video, and other exciting things. But there's a lot of stuff that was really interesting in the Supreme Court. One was if they pull you over, they can't delay the stop long enough to let a drug dog come and sniff your car unless there's reasonable cause, like they smell weed in the car. Another one involves raisins, about a 1940 era New Deal program about the government taking your raisins, and it's just some interesting stuff that didn't get any news coverage. And the best place to get really smart coverage of this is SCOTUS blog. SCOTUS standing for Supreme Court of the United States, SCOTUS blog.com. And there's some really interesting, smart things that these are not easy reads. They're often fairly quick reads for legal reads, but it's just some really fascinating stuff. And it's we didn't have time for it, or the interest probably, but check it out, please, if you're interested in that sort of thing. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. We appreciate it. Don't forget, Alan's book is Designing and Developing for Google Glass, co-authored with Jason Salas, our favorite Guam news anchor. Also the only Guam news anchor. Just kidding, to his co-conspirators. But check it out. It's at O'Reilly Media. It's one of the many, many books on designing and developing for Google Glass. This is the one designed by Alan Furstenberg and Jason Salas. We have two programs. This is one. The other is called Our Android Week. Our Android Week is every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific on YouTube Live and Google+. And this program is Google Plus Week, which is every Friday around 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, or another time if we so choose. Anyway, thank you very much for your live comments and your comments post-mortem. And thank you for tolerating all of the wonderful trolling that occurs, often directed at me during our program. Thanks to Eli and Pam and Michael and Sheila and my beloved co-host, in addition to Pam as a co-host, my beloved co-host Alan Furstenberg, purveyor of Prisoner.com, and a fat royalty check every week from his book, which you may only use according to the terms of service agreement when you download it.
Oh, Dan. Oh, stepped on a big pile of horse manure there.
A miniature horse pile. You know what? I posted a video. I hung out for 10 minutes with miniature horses. Don't underestimate their ability to
Poop.
pinch a loaf.
Yeah, Dan, here's the thing. O'Reilly does not have DRM on their books. So there is no license agreement when you download an O'Reilly book.
So I can upload it to Drive and share it publicly. There's no problem with that.
What was that, Dan?
So I can take the book I paid like $50 for or whatever it was, and upload it to Drive and just share it with my friends.
No, because that's a violation of copyright.
Ah, so I don't own the book. I can
No,
share.
you do own the book. You can put it on your 500 devices. You can put it on your
I can
12
share my
computers
recipe.
and your 3 books, and I mean your 3 note pads and your 12 phones, and you can put it on all that crap and read it anytime you want.
I'm clearly
But
trolling Alan at this point. I realize the dishonesty in my argument. It's just for fun. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching. We do appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Until then, have a badass, awesome. Oh, don't forget, Apple Blossom. I'm interviewing Candace Cameron, who was on Full House, and she's getting a reboot on Netflix. I'll be interviewing her in like a week. And who else?
I'll be doing a Solve for X challenge in New York City tomorrow.
A what challenge?
Solve for X.
What is? Could you maybe with visual aids and small sentences explain?
It is, you know how we've been covering moonshot projects at Google for the past couple of years?
Sure.
This is basically Google helping sponsor others to create their own moonshot projects.
Like our beloved Google Plus. Oh, bam. Oh, all right. Anyway, I'm gonna get beat up for that one. Yep. Okay. So anyway, thank y'all very much, and I'm also gonna be probably interviewing Lee Greenwood, who might even break into patriotic song. I'm guessing. I'm just throwing that out there. Wild thought. Anyway, thank y'all for watching. Until next time, have an epic Google Plus week. And if there are any questions you want me to, the burning questions you've been dying to ask Candace Cameron since the late 80s, let me know, and I will ask your question and name you. All right, take care. Thank you very much. Kudos.